another good friend coming on right now. I think he's on the line. Former governor of Maryland, Bob Ehrlich, Blue Collar Bob. How are you? Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Bob.
How are you?
7 degrees down here, Bob.
How's your engineer doing in there?
She's doing great. Listen, it's really warm in the studio, but when we got here this morning, it was 7 degrees.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
My youngest son is in the military bowl parade because his football team won the county championship, and I'm concerned for his health. He's going to be out there all day watching Navy today. So.
Well, did you like the lead-in?
Everybody.
Did you like the lead-in? I gave you a little bit of Billy Joel, the old Baltimore Bop.
I liked it. That's my era, man. You kidding?
Yeah. And, being inspired, we got Trump. But I wanted you to call in today and talk about, and I thank you for calling because I know it's holiday time.
My pleasure.
And I know you have a new book coming out. It's not out yet. And it's tell us the name and tell us what's happening.
Bet you didn't see that one coming. It's my fourth book, and it opened number one on one of the Amazon's political categories, so it had a really nice start without a whole lot of publicity to it. It's really not available. It is available on Amazon pre-sale, but will be available in bookstores and on Amazon. You can actually get it delivered soon. I know I went to the printer about a week ago. So we're very excited about it. It's been very well reviewed. It's not just a political book. It examines sort of the rise of Trump and the reaction to progressivism on steroids that really caused the rise of Trump. It combines some of my previously published pieces, columns from National Review, Weekly Standard, Washington Examiner, Baltimore Sun, and other periodicals, newspapers, and fresh perspective from the campaign. I was able to get around a bit, as you know, particularly throughout the East and the South during the campaign, really saw the rise of this enthusiasm, this sort of grassroots, this nationalistic, populist, whatever term you want to use, for the president. And so I saw it up close and personal, and I write about it. But it's not just a campaign book. It's about sort of, the rise of it, what it means with regard to various issues, and obviously going forward as well for the country.
Governor, let me ask you a question. What do you see with this Russian dossier? You think this thing's going to die out?
Yes and no. Yes, with regard to substance, since here it's a counterintelligence investigation that's going on now for a couple of years, and there's just nothing there. Now that's part of my answer. Nothing of substance has emerged. Obviously, I was not an insider in the campaign, but I did once John Kasich was out of the race. I did join the media group. I obviously did, as you know, a bunch of TV interviews for the campaign in the latter part of it. But collusion, you got to be kidding me. I'm not sure the campaign could have colluded with itself. It was a populist sort of campaign. It did not have a whole lot of staff, particularly early on. It wasn't, in a sense, terribly sophisticated. It was about this guy, this candidate. It was much more about him and sort of a cult of personality and his non-traditional views, non-PC views, flying into airplane hangars, talking to large crowds, flying out, going to the next airplane hangar. But that's sort of my observation, and I don't know what I don't know, but I do know this investigation has been going on for a couple of years, and nobody's found anything with regard to collusion. Now, the other part of my answer is, of course it'll go on because the Democrats have a narrative, the press has a narrative, at least part of the press has a narrative, and they're not going to let it go. They're just not going to let it go. It certainly contributed to some negative poll numbers for the president. Other things have contributed as well, but clearly this is part of his rather low approval rating at this time. And so to the extent that it's worked, the left is certainly not going to forego this particular narrative.
What do you give him on a grade for his first year in office?
Policy-wise, A, MO and process, C, with regard to judges, and obviously the tax bill is a terrific bill, and just how he's gone about conducting American foreign policy and just charter schools. I mean, you name it. I love. It's very Reagan-esque. He's given some of his strongest speeches, by the way, in foreign lands. The speech of the Poles at the G20, I thought, was maybe the best speech he's given. Less Twitter stuff, less off-the-cuff speech, so to speak, when he is in foreign lands, and I appreciate that. I'm not a fan of some of the smaller stakes, Twitter wars, getting into this stupid stuff with Joe Scarborough and the like. I think it's beneath the president, it's beneath him, it's beneath our success, and this is no great insight from me, and a lot of people share this view. To the extent he is willing to engage in these very small-time battles, it degrades his success.
Right.
And to the extent he does it, it degrades sort of what we're trying to do, which is what I write about in the book, which is overcome and repeal and the Obama era.
What'd you think about him when he went to ASEAN, when he was in Vietnam? I mean, some of that stuff was good.
He's, I think, shockingly to a lot of people, he has been very, very solid with regard to his foreign trips. By the way, I'll also throw in his first joint appearance before Congress and his recent speech at the UN. But whether it's North Korea, whether it's Russia, obviously the destruction of ISIS, a new day at NATO. It's a very strong American president, and the rules are different now. We do expect you to pay your dues at NATO. You know, we're not going to report when we're going to arrive or depart on the battlefield. It's different. It's refreshing. It's strong. It's Reagan-esque.
Governor, did you see Robert Kennedy Jr.? Did you see the article? He said that Donald Trump may become one of the greatest presidents ever. That was amazing.
I did not. Again, I'll go back to this, and you can imagine how many people come up to me on a daily basis, and these are mostly folks who are friendly to the president or right of center or even sometimes wildly enthusiastic Trump supporters, and say, can you get him just to lay off the Twitter?
Everybody says that. I think 90% of us say that. We all say that.
But again, to the extent he does this, what really bothers me is it degrades the success we're having, the turnaround, the 180. And again, this is what the book's about. We were progressive on steroids for 8 years, and suddenly it's not just stopped, but it's strongly conservative themes. Look at for instance, the judicial vetting. The ABA, Federal Society is now vetting federal judges. Nice. This is great stuff. Net neutrality, this is great stuff. The NLRB, this is great stuff. Let alone the tax bill and illegal immigration being down so much. I mean, these are profound policy changes occurring on a daily basis. And when small bore fights occur, they simply degrade what people need to know about the success of the administration.
Have you met him?
Oh, yes. We got to know him. Funny, Kendall got to know him first. We began negotiating with him, with his folks, quite frankly, to bring Miss USA to Maryland when I was governor.
Oh.
And we were successful, as you know. 2 different years, he brought his beauty pageant to Baltimore, which was a wild success, by the way. When you bring big-time events to your major city, that's a big win because of all the economic activity associated with the event. Kendall went out to dinner with him before I did. We got to know him, both of us, over the years. That was the first time. And so it was very easy for me to, once my friend John Kasich was out of the race, to hook on with the Trump campaign. But it was, again, fascinating to see the appeal this guy had. And you appreciate this. for decades, Maryland politicians or Virginia politicians, particularly obviously GOP politicians, and myself included, had gone to Pennsylvania and tried to sell Mitt Romney and tried to sell Bob Dole and tried to sell John McCain, and we could never get that sort of that marriage done. And here this billionaire comes in and gets this marriage with working class people accomplished day one.
Yeah.
And against all odds, nobody saw it again. Bet you didn't see that one coming, but it did come, and it came very strong, and it came very early. It just wasn't about immigration, but it was about growth. And I will go to my grave thinking this election, despite all the Hillary Clinton problems and trade issues and all that, it was about growth. It was about 26-year-olds in the basement. It was about Obama-era slow growth, and the fact the left tried to sell the American people that this was our future. The slow growth was our future, so live with it. Limited horizons, all right? Deal with it.
And it was the bricks. It was all about the bricks. Remember, Governor?
Absolutely.
And
by the way, you didn't build that.
Yeah.
And the guy came and said, yeah, you did build that. And good for you. And by the way, we're going to celebrate your success. And by the way, wealth isn't bad. And by the way, wealthy people tend to hire other people. And it's called capitalism, and we're going to celebrate America. We're going to celebrate American exceptionalism. We're going to celebrate the small business person who makes it on his or her own, and maybe becomes wealthy and gives a lot of money to charity and creates jobs. And that's what the country's all about. And there's nothing. Feel shame about it. We should celebrate it.
Well, look at the...
and that's really the secret to his success.
They even have a fund out now called the Make America Great Again Fund. It's a you heard about that, right? MAGA fund.
But again, this is very Reagan-esque. This is beyond substance. This is beyond issues. This is a worldview. This translates, for instance, Christmas just passed, into consumer confidence. Look at the numbers from the malls. Look at the consumer. Look at and people say don't look at the stock market because it's wealthy. Well, guess what? As you well know, and the stock market maybe was a rich man's game 30, 50, 80 years ago, but today it's a very middle class game. A lot of 401ks getting healthy
401s,
today.
Yeah, IRAs. I mean, the small guys in the deal. The small guys in the deal today.
Yep. The small guys in the deal, and that's again. This whole thing about the war on wealth and income inequality and all that, it's about growth. And when all ships are rising, everybody feels better.
Well, you came from a blue-collar neighborhood.
Very blue-collar.
This guy is the blue-collar billionaire. People don't understand it.
It's fascinating. Here's a guy, Manhattan real estate mogul, and violates all the rules and really has a small staff and insults other candidates and sometimes goes off on these crazy Twitter wars, and sometimes is plain wrong in what he says. But again, it's from the heart. I liken it a little bit to William Donald Schaefer. Mm-hmm. And William Donald
he was
Schaefer,
that type of guy,
I studied and obviously worked with on the Board of Public Works when he was comptroller. Here's a guy, very unsophisticated politically, no really concrete philosophical viewpoint of the world, an old big city mayor, get it done, bricks and mortar, no real views on abortion or tort reform or balanced budgets, but from the heart. And whatever he said, sometimes in a very non-sophisticated way, people tended to give him the benefit of the doubt because they knew when it came out of his mouth, that's really what he thought. Mm-hmm. And it may have been inarticulate, but it was the real thing. And in this day and age of super sophisticated candidates and everything is tested and focus groups, you have a guy that comes out and just says what he thinks.
And then he takes a guy like Corey Lewandowski, who never ran a campaign. That's the best one.
He violated, again, a point I make in the book. Every rule in the book was violated. Every rule in Washington's rule book was violated in this campaign.
Well, this is going to be a good book to read.
I think you're going to enjoy it. I'm really excited about it. We'll be on a book tour this winter and spring. Again, it will be on Amazon. We'll do a bunch of public signings around the Mid-Atlantic and hopefully into the East and Southwest as well.
Are you coming to Tyson's Corner?
We'll let you know.
All right, please do. Bob Ehrlich, thank you. Want to wish you and your family, Kendall, the kids, Happy New Year, the best.
We send back to everybody in your crew and your questionable engineer as well. and and we wish everybody a belated Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And again, be happy.
Absolutely.
Be strong. America's coming back.
Thank you, sir.